Good morning. Not legal advice. Please subscribe, share, let others know. I was hoping not to do this particular video. I was hoping to move on, but every time I think I'm moved on from the MMTLP situation, something else strikes me, and unfortunately, it irritates me. And so I filed a brief yesterday in last night in federal court, so it was Sunday night. So I worked yesterday on the brief based on the FOIA response to Howard's request, and I went through all the documents, and it obviously paints a very bad picture of FINRA and the other defendants. Certainly inconsistencies with whatever they said, and obviously they never warned investors despite obviously investigations about fraud. And besides that, the the response was from the SEC, not from FINRA. So we've not been provided anything from FINRA. We know there's blue sheets or an electronic file of such that exists that would establish the share count. So all that stuff is helpful and true, and we know that that FINRA's basically pursued a what appears to be a criminal path and has asserted inconsistent statements relative to what they put in the FAQ, the second FAQ, and what's in the FOIA request. But so that all exists. But after I was pondering a little bit this morning, what really concerns me is all the references to the SEC. So in that FOIA response, there's a letter back in 2021, an email, and there's multiple SEC people that have been contacted in an email amongst department heads at FINRA. And it's very possible, and I would expect that if this reached the level of department heads at FINRA, and there were at least, I think, 3 SEC names that were omitted, it's very possible it reached the top echelons of FINRA, at the SEC. And that would be as to allegations of fraud about MMTLP in 2021. So it very well could be the case that the head of the SEC was aware of this MMTLP situation back in 2021. And I heard nothing about it, no notice, not only from FINRA, because FINRA didn't provide any notice, but the SEC provided no notice. And what's the excuse for that? They were copied. Even if Mr. Gensler was not copied on this particular email, at least 3 or 2 people at the SEC at some high level were, and we heard nothing. They did nothing to protect investors. And the SEC is supposed to be the regulatory body that ultimately is to protect investors. And they obviously failed in this occasion. But that's not where the problem stops. Then we go to 2022. So again, there's discussions amongst the department heads, the head of the crime detection unit at FINRA, and then multiple people at the SEC and reference to general counsel. And this matter was at a very high level, very public, and people were pissed in December. And these particular emails relate to acknowledging that tips had come in relating to fraud as to trading of MMTLP and the situation as to NextBridge. So everybody knew about this. And then there's reference to the SEC, and there's omissions and blacked out portions, and general counsel is mentioned, and heads of departments are mentioned. I don't see how it's feasible that Gary Gensler did not know about what was going on. And at latest, that would have been December of 2022. We're now in April of 2022. Nothing has been resolved. It only now looks more suspect and more suspicious. And we have not heard a single word from the SEC or Gary Gensler. Mr. Gensler, come forward and acknowledge your involvement. And if you didn't have any involvement, then tell us so. Stop the stonewalling.